What is going on, everyone? It's Sean with another Tesla video. And in this one, I'm taking a little bit different approach here. You'll see by the title of the video that I've got a well-known and a YouTuber that you're probably very familiar with, Ben Sullins from Teslanomics. Ben, welcome to my YouTube channel.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. It's good to be here.
Absolutely. I am interested in diving in here. You know, I follow you kind of semi-closely. I know a little bit about your story, and really curious, though, to get some of the background behind Teslanomics and how you got into Tesla. So let's maybe start there. Ben, I know you're a two-time Tesla owner.
Mm-hmm.
Where did that interest in Tesla first begin? Give me some background and history on that. How long ago did that start?
Yeah, so I've never been one for expensive cars. I've never really thought about owning an expensive car, and Teslas are expensive. So it never really made, it never even dawned on me that I would ever purchase one until I had my son, and my old '99 Toyota Tacoma pickup was no longer sufficient to travel around with the baby in. And so I wanted an electric vehicle. Me and my wife kind of sat down even before all of this and said, we want to create what we call a family sustainability plan. We want to do what we can to put our money where our mouth is and invest in technologies and, reduce our kind of carbon impact as much as we can. And so we decided even before any of this that we were going to have all electric vehicles, solar panels, home batteries, as much as we could do in that space. And so after my son was born, I needed a new car, and I was looking at electric cars, seriously, for the first time. And so then at the time, I was really considering a Nissan Leaf because it was really kind of the best one out there that wasn't a Tesla, obviously. And when I priced it all out, the most expensive, like with all the bells and whistles, it was like $45,000. And I thought, man, that's really expensive for a car that only goes 90 miles on a charge or something like that. And granted, my wife, was working at the time 3 miles from the house. I work at home, so it's not like we need long distance travel in an electric car. But that was where I was headed, and I just kind of late one night thought, I remember Tesla doing a used program. Let me see if there's any used Teslas and what they might cost. And lo and behold, there were plenty that were in that same price range. And so when I started to look at it, I thought, well, okay, for $5,000 more, I can get, double the car that I'm getting than from a Nissan Leaf. So, around $50,000, you could get a used Model S.
What year is this, by the way?
Late 2015, I think, is when we were seriously looking at it. And the used program was still, I think, kind of new. Not a lot of people really knew about it, and all that kind of a thing. So, yeah, I ran the numbers on it, and I looked at it, and I said, well, it's a safer car. It has more than double the range. It looks better. It's more functional, and I forever have been very sorely disappointed with the technology in cars. Frankly, this little device I have in my hand is still today more powerful compute-wise than like 90+% of cars on the market that you can buy, right? There are very few cars that you can even compete with this little thing. And so it always felt like a giant waste of money to me to put money into a car that had crap technology. But Teslas, of course, as you know, don't. They have amazing technology. And so as soon as the financial side of it started to add up, and the technology, of course, was fantastic, it was kind of, there was no way I was gonna not get one. So that's how it all kind of began.
So would you consider yourself a financially conservative person? Like, was this a pretty big deal that you were spending this much money on an asset, a depreciating asset?
My wife is the one that really keeps me grounded. Back when I was working in corporate America, successful, been in it a long time, making well over 6 figures a year, I was still living paycheck to paycheck. And that shouldn't have been, until I met my wife, and she was like, why the hell are you spending all this money on all this dumb crap? And let's start saving money and doing all that. So she's really the one that's much more kind of fiscally conservative. And so when I came to her with this idea, I knew that the financial side had to work out. And that's actually kind of what led me into making that video about saving gas money by having a Tesla, the first kind of Tesla video I ever did. So yeah, like she's the one that's definitely there. I would have probably bought a brand new one, just blown all my money, not, cared, because I didn't grow up with money, so I'm totally not used to it. And so I don't really understand the value of it. I kind of see it as a transient asset in my life. Like it comes and goes, like, we'll have money and then we won't, and whatever, like life goes on, and it never has been something important to me. So I've never really valued it like like a lot of people do. So she was really the one that kind of made sure all the financial side made sense.
Well, okay, so you ran the numbers, you did the spreadsheet, because I think there's a video that has garnered quite a bit of attention and probably was the precipice for Teslanomics. Was it a like slam dunk once you said, "Hey, wife, here's the spreadsheet, here's the numbers, it makes sense to me, let's go out and get it"? Or did it take a little bit more time for you to convince her to jump into it?
It was pretty quick, because by the time I came to her, I had all the math worked out, and I said, "Look, we can buy this ugly piece of junk,
yes,
or we can buy this amazing, safest car ever made, free supercharging throughout the world, etc. All these amazing benefits." And so when you looked at the math of it, you said, "Yeah, it's more expensive, but you get so much more that I would rather." Like me and her both kind of agree that spending money is not a problem as long as you're getting value for it, as long as you're getting something of quality, right? Like we would rather buy one amazing thing than buy a bunch of cheaper, less quality things and have to replace them. And so when we looked at that, we said, well, the Nissan Leaf, it's not going to last very long for us. We know that we would only have it for a few years and, get something else eventually. So why don't we get this other car and, and that will keep for a long time. And so, yeah, that was January of 2016. We got our used Model S.
Did you have the solar then at that time, or was that post Tesla purchase?
That was post Tesla purchase. We already had that in mind, but we hadn't pulled the trigger on that. And then a few months in, or maybe, I don't know, 6 or 8 months in, after we saw our electricity bill start to go up pretty dramatically, it really made financial sense. And I think I did a video on that too, because, and I don't know if it's like this where you're at, but here in San Diego, the temperature is really agreeable almost all year round. So solar doesn't actually make sense for a lot of people, not because there's not sunshine, like that's obvious. It's that you don't spend much money on heating and cooling your home and electricity to begin with. Like when we moved in our house, it didn't have air conditioning, and it had these old gas heaters, these in-wall gas heaters. So for the first year, our average electricity bill, which included gas, was somewhere around $40 to $50 a month total. And that's it.
Wow.
And so when you're only paying that much per month, it doesn't really make any sense to go solar, because it's going to take you 40 years to recoup all that cost, right? So in the early days, it didn't make any sense at all. But after we had an electric vehicle and we were charging that up every day, then it really started to add up, because that was 60 or 70 bucks a month.
Once you started plugging in your Tesla, do you remember what it went up to from 40 bucks to what?
Yeah, it went up 60 or 70 bucks on top of the 40 or 50. So now we're paying 120, 130 bucks a month kind of a thing. And that's, I think, at least here, the prices for, in San Diego, that's kind of the break point. Like if you're paying over $100 a month, then you probably could save some money with solar from all the research I've done.
Yeah. Interesting. You've got, so I mentioned this in the very beginning, but you've got this brand called Teslanomics. So you published this first video, and I would imagine it got some interest pretty immediately. But talk about that genesis of Teslanomics. How did that begin? What's the, obviously it was post purchase of the Tesla, but give some color around how that idea came to be, and was it on purpose or was it by accident?
Yeah. It was definitely by accident, and then it was on purpose. So at the time, my plan was, so I was the chief data officer for a company called Pluralsight, which is like Netflix for programmers that want to learn how to program in languages. Prior to being an employee there, I was an author for them. So I was already making online courses, which were generating passive income. So I was still making a royalty, years after the fact. And so I worked there for a couple years and started an office here in San Diego for him. We did all this stuff. And then eventually the stress of kind of being in that role because when I started, we had like 50 employees. And 2 years later, we had, 500 plus employees. And so the job, like I really loved it very early on, but it grew into something that I wasn't really in love with. And having my son be 6 months old at the time, it was just way too much. Like, I just didn't want to be that guy that basically was a slave to my job forever just to have more money. So I quit my job as the chief data officer there and just became a full-time author for Pluralsight. So I was just making online courses on data science topics. Then from there, what I did was I just continued to do that, and I started making YouTube videos that were like little teasers. And I think they're still up there. You can go look at them, like how to do this in Excel, or this Tableau thing, which is a software, data analysis software, things like that. So I had these little teaser videos, and the whole idea was basically like, hey, if you liked that, go watch my full course on Pluralsight. And that, thinking about it now, it was kind of dumb, because even if like 1,000 people did that, the percentage of viewership change on the Pluralsight library would be so minute that it probably wouldn't really make any difference for me financially. But I was starting to make videos, right? Then I did the video on explaining how much money we were saving by having a Tesla over having a gas car. And within the first week, it had something like 200,000 views. And I was floored. I had no idea that was even possible. Like, I guess I knew that there were like YouTubers that had, millions of followers and all this stuff, but I never intended for any of that. My whole notion was like, this is just a way to, get people interested in data science and then have them come kind of, into the library here and watch all my content there and just keep making content there. So after that video went nuts, though, I started to experiment with more. I did a couple other videos around, this was right around the election, so November of 2016. And I did, I really tried to break down some of the stuff there around the election. Nobody cared at all. 0 people really cared about that. I did a couple other very simple Tesla videos, like the cost of maintenance on a Tesla versus a Mercedes or something like that. Yeah, 100,000 views in the first month. Just So it was, as a data guy, obviously these were like giant signal flares shooting up saying, hey, do more of that, dummy. And so then in January of 2017, I said, okay, well, let's just focus solely on Tesla and just make Tesla videos and see where it goes.
So, okay, you left a well-paying job as the chief data scientist to do your own thing. Your wife, being the conservative decision maker, did she just freak out totally?
Not really. But yeah, definitely, like, this is not ever what you would recommend. Like, hey, go buy a Tesla, have a baby, quit your job. Like, those aren't the 3 things you're supposed to do, right? That's not how this works. But that's what I did. So I've been in the data field since 98. So, geez, I guess that's 20 years now.
Wow.
Yeah. So I've always had, like, or not always, but maybe after 7 or 8 years in the field, I realized that when you have a trade skill, like making sense of data and explaining that to executives and helping teams make better decisions, there is there is value in what you do, right? It's not like just being a manager and it's like, oh, I'm a good manager. It's like, yeah, well, we can teach anybody to be a manager. Not to put down management practices and people that are truly great at it. But that isn't something that you can be like, hey, come into any random company and be like, I'm a great manager. But you can literally go into almost any company nowadays and say, I'm a great data scientist, and they'll listen. And so the market for the skills I had that I'd acquired over 2 decades of work were such that I didn't have any fear of finding a job. Like, to me, it was like, well, I'll go do this. Worst case scenario, I go find another job, right? Mm-hmm. It wasn't like I didn't have something that I could use. So, and I had actually, serially been like, I think the most I ever spent at a company was like 4 years. And usually it was to come in, start a program, build it up, get them running, and then jump to another company. And this is why I was a consultant for many years, because that was like exactly the right kind of fit for me. So she had seen me bounce around from company to company for years now. And so she was kind of used to it and just, had a lot of faith in me and said, yeah, like if you think, this is going to work, then do it. And thankfully, because I was at Pluralsight, I had data on what the top authors were making and how likely it is to succeed, as well as I knew the company's strategy, and they were going into the data space pretty heavily, me being the primary author for that space. So it all kind of made sense, right? Like it may sound insanely risky, and I guess there definitely was some sleepless nights, but in general, I just felt confident in my skills and stuff. So we were able to do it without too much strife there.
Right. So the Tesla YouTube thing, that's full time right now.
Yeah, it's been full time. I think so. I started doing courses for LinkedIn Learning as well. And I think the last one I did for them was, I want to say like July or something. I forget when my last trip was up there. I don't know if they've even released all the courses yet, but yeah. So I basically stopped working with them in late summer, fall of last year. So basically, I'd been doing Tesla YouTube videos and making more data science courses for LinkedIn Learning, and then but that was like they both were kind of like part-time jobs, and I've like kind of officially ended that fall of last year. So I've been nothing but YouTube since then.
Nuts. Talk a little bit about what does your schedule look like? I mean, for someone who does this full time, there's not very many people who have the means to do this. So what does a typical week in the day of Teslanomics look like?
I think that's probably why it's the perfect kind of relationship where it's so fun because it's so varied every day that passion like just doesn't fade at all. And I pour it into every new video. And so it kind of, because like YouTube is a really strange and amazing thing. And the more I learn about it, the more I love it. And then in some ways hate it, right? It's like that. So like this week, for example, what is today? Today's Thursday.
Today's Thursday.
Yeah. So earlier we were on vacation up in Palm Springs, which we did a vlog about. Last week, I was on a road trip with a filmer. So every week has like a whole new set of things. Yesterday, I was in LA filming. I hired an actor, which you'll see in a video sometime soon. So each week, like Monday live stream, and then Tuesday and Wednesday editing. Thursday, I usually publish kind of my produced video of the week. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, try to relax with the family, plan the following week, plan for the Monday live stream. So every week I have the live stream on Monday, and then I have another video coming out. So just basically filming and editing, depending on what day of the week it is. So
are you doing everything in-house, or do you outsource any of this?
No, I do most of it myself. I did have an editor for a while, which was great. And he was phenomenally helpful to me very early on, because I could basically film, send him the footage, and then, magically get a video back, and then kind of fine tune it from there. But probably the past 6 or 7 months, it's been all me doing it, 100% of it.
Wow. Super impressive. The amount of content that you're putting out, the level of quality as well is impressive, and even more impressive now knowing that you're doing this all in-house. So it's amazing.
I appreciate it. It's been a process. If you go look at some of my older videos, specifically that first one, I think it has over 1 million views now. It's literally 720p shot with a webcam. Barely any editing, horrible audio. Just all of it's wrong, right? Like now, I've got cameras galore. I literally am surrounded by gear. But it's not like you just get it all overnight, right? These things take time. So basically being dedicated to it for, going on 1.5 years, it feels like I feel pretty good about that. So
it's I've seen some of the earlier videos, so I know exactly what you're talking about, and it's cool to see the evolution of the early videos and today's videos. So cool to see. Very cool to see. I want to transition here to talk a little bit about Tesla's referral program, because you have kind of leveraged your reach on YouTube to just completely decimate the referral program. So talk a little bit about the referral program that Tesla has. And I'd love for you to get into your thoughts on winning a Tesla Roadster as well.
Yeah. This, I think, started in January of 2017 when they announced the annual prizes. And one of them was a of your choice, Model S or X, P100, or I'm sorry, basically any Model S or X you want, for the first person in every region to get 20 referrals. And so when they came out with that, I thought, holy cow, like, okay, there's like that's like a real prize. That isn't like a hoodie, just like cool, but I'm not gonna like break my back for a hoodie, And so I think that is when I really started to think about it more seriously, and started to kind of get those wheels going. And it definitely is that old adage of like the flywheel, and you just keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. It's not something that you can flip a switch on overnight. Like, I don't know if you've even seen, but like some of my friends that have, millions and millions of followers on YouTube have tried to push their code just by mentioning it kind of casually in videos. And it's garnered some referrals, but not nearly as many, because there does have to be kind of a support, like an infrastructure piece to it. So what I did, because I've been in corporate America for a long time, and I've been in tech specifically, I know all about, and not that I'm say that I'm like the best at it, but I know how things like email marketing works. So what I did very early on was I started to set up an email list, and I would email everybody my videos every time a new one comes out, which I still do today. Like today, or actually right now, a new one just went out. And at the bottom of it, it just said, hey, if you're buying a Tesla, if you know someone that is, use my referral code. Very kind of passive, but hey, here's a benefit. And at the time, I mean, it really is awesome. It's like $1,000 and free supercharging. Like, why would you not do that? Right. It's not like you're trying to sell something to somebody that is very clearly benefiting you over them. Like, yes, I'll get a hoodie or I'll get whatever. But then eventually when the prizes started to get bigger and bigger, it was like, wow, this is a thing. And there were 2 points in the past year that I think really changed how like I was able to see the success I've seen. And I think that for them has achieved great success. For Tesla, it has meant a lot too. One was ironically, when they started sending out the emails saying you have to be friends with the person.
Yes.
So I don't know if you know about this, but somebody tweeted pissed off to Elon, and Elon actually responded, shockingly, that we're going to put a stop to this. People on YouTube and elsewhere pushing their code. And so Elon responded, and then people started getting these emails, these letters saying, hey, take the code off your page. Mm-hmm. Well, at that point in time, my friends Zach and Jesse, who have a channel called Now You Know,
right?
They said, okay, well, if you guys want to get our referral code, go like our page on Facebook and send us a message, and we'll send it to you. And that I thought was brilliant. I was like, yes, that's exactly right. So I then implemented something which is still there today. And I in nowhere on my channel will you find my actual code. You find a link to a page, which then you have to, because they say you have to be my friend. I get your name, your email address, and something interesting about yourself to become my friend. And I share a video of myself playing flamenco guitar, which is like a hobby I have. As a, hey, here's me, tell me something about yourself. I've had like 3,000 plus people fill that out now.
Crazy.
There are some wild responses in there, many of which I cannot share on YouTube or publicly. But that, I think, so what happens is you go fill that out, then you get an email. Hey, great. Thanks for signing up. Here's the code. I'm also going to send you the videos that I do. If you don't want to watch those, you can unsubscribe. No harm, no foul. You have the code. And then a week later, I have an automated email that comes out that says, hey, how did your order, or did your order go through? What options did you choose? Send me a picture. I'd love to see it. And that's honest. I really do.
Yeah.
And that is the key piece, because that second email, people respond to, a lot of people, especially if they're serious about buying a Tesla. And then they ask questions. And so then I go personally respond to all of them. And I think I've responded to all of them. But you know, if you look back, I've literally sent hundreds and hundreds of emails to people that were asking questions that, you know, either I had the answer to, or I could point them to where that information is. And so through that relationship I've built with all these people, that's where I think the success came from. Right. So really kind of adding value at a personal level for somebody that's buying $100,000 product. I think you deserve that. And that I think is what has, like, people, why they've entrusted me, and why they've used my code over other people's. That was the first thing, was having to be a friend, because that to me built that bond. The next thing was when they opened it up to be basically unlimited. So if you recall, they came out with the secret levels, but it was only, you could only get 5 to the next level, and then your code stopped working. And they did that, I think, for the first 2 levels, or maybe 3. And I actually, me and a few of the other folks, we know the guy who runs a referral program at Tesla. We met him at one of the events. He actually, you know, introduced himself, said, "Hey, if you have any questions ever, like, email me." And so I remember talking to him, or I don't know if I called him or we just exchanged emails, but we were talking about it. I said, "Hey, why don't you just let us keep referring people? Because honestly, I have like dozens of people emailing me saying, hey, your code isn't working and I'm ready to buy a Tesla." And it's like, dude, come on. Like, just, I don't care what the next levels are, right? Like, just let it keep going, because we have this Roadster prize,
right?
Which there's no way we're ever going to get there if you only let us do 5 a quarter. You know, it'll take 15 years or something stupid. So we're like, look, just make it unlimited. When you get the next level approved or figure out what the next level is, sweet, great, we got it. But until then, let us continue on. And he agreed. And apparently he had a meeting with Elon to discuss that. And they approved it. So I think a week or 2 later, all of a sudden, instead of like 555, it was go nuts. You know, when we announce the new secret level, you automatically get it if you've already got it. But we're not going to like shut your code off. And I had a chart, I think on Teslanomics, they posted it, where you can see it's like this. It's like dink, 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 boom. And that, so those were the 2 things that led to like, okay, great. The referral program, I've got like infrastructure in place. I still, to this day, like even this morning, we're responding to people with questions that are seriously going to buy a Tesla. So yeah, I think those were the key things for me that really made it, you know, possible to get where I'm at now with that.
I think it's really cool. So how many referrals did you have to get to win this Tesla Roadster? And talk about that first moment, because you did a video on this. Talk about that moment when you first realized, you woke up that morning and you realized, oh my gosh, I just won a $200,000 Tesla.
Yeah. Well, so I had been, I'd been close for a while. So I had to get 55 referrals. So it was 5 to kind of like an ante in to be in the program. And then for every referral, you get a 2% discount. So you need 50. So 55 total. And after they unlocked it to where you can kind of just get as many as you want and you're not restricted by these levels, I was getting like 1 to 2 every day or every other day. So about 1 a day. And then some days out of nowhere, I'd get like 5, I think. And it was funny. I remember there were some times when it must have been somebody in Europe that like found my code and was at a store and like told everyone at the store buying them like to use my code, because I would get all like 5 from like France all in one day. And I'm like, wow, what the heck? That's random. So anyways, that's like, as I was getting closer to the 55, I knew I would get there certainly before the program ended, but I just didn't know when. And so I wanted to get that reaction, that authentic, real reaction on video. And so I moved the app on my phone because I would check it nonstop, you know, because they were coming in every couple hours. And we were out with our family, and some family was in town. We were walking around Coronado, just having fun. And then we came back, and, you know, I would check in the morning and then I would check in the afternoon. And so, yeah, so I turned on all the lights, I hit the cameras, and then that's where that video came from. It's funny. I kind of tempered my reaction because I didn't want to be like, hey, yeah, you know, like I'm the best or anything like that. That's just not me. And it's not like it was a winner take all thing. Like, I think now there are over 10 or 11 people that have got it. So, yeah, I mean, it was it didn't really sink in at all until I was at the event and got to ride in it. I
Right.
think that was when I was just like shaking, and it's weird. It felt like my wedding day or something. I mean, you were there. Like
Yeah.
literally everywhere I went, people were coming up to me, congratulating me on getting one. And I'm like, well, you know, it was
Yeah.
literally, I couldn't go 10 feet without somebody stopping me and saying something about it. So, yeah, I mean, that I think was when I was like in shock of like, oh my God, I've never, like, I would never ever buy a car like this ever. No, like, no way. You know, getting one for free, obviously I'll do, but yeah. So
What are the stats? Have you run the numbers on what it's going to cost you tax wise
yeah.
to receive? Are you going to receive it? Are you going to take the? Are you going to sell it or not
Oh,
take advantage of it?
yeah. No, I'm definitely taking it. I'm definitely getting it. And the fact that this is the Founder Series one where they only make 1,000 of them, means that the longer I can hold on to it, it may actually appreciate in value. Like if you saw La Ferrari, which is like their kind of top of the line Ferrari, I think, is that the one? Yeah, I think it is. They only made, I think, 500 or 600 of those, and it originally sold for 2.5 million. And then I think 2017 or 2016, it sold at auction for over $7 million.
Crazy.
So because the scarcity in the uniqueness, I think it actually could appreciate in value. But so yeah, I ran the numbers on it. The big question, and I still don't know, is how is Tesla actually going to do it? Talking with the guys at the referral program, they don't have a definite answer yet, but they're like, well, I don't know if they really thought anybody would get there.
Yeah. Right.
But now that there's a handful of us, I think the idea is like, okay, well, they want to make it to where we can actually get it for free, which there's like, depending on the laws and everything like that, I'm not quite sure exactly how that shakes out. But there's two scenarios, and I did a video on it. The short answer is I would be very happy just to pay the taxes and everything as if I bought it. I think it comes out to 20 something $1,000 here in California, which, yeah, I mean, that maybe is
It's a lot of
a
money,
decent amount of money,
but not for a $200,000 car.
right,
Amazing.
right, yeah, definitely getting. I'm definitely ahead on that deal there. The scenario that I would that would be the worst is if they counted it as income for my business. Or I'm sorry, if they counted it as income for me personally, that'd be the worst. But because it's through my business, it would probably be income for my business, which I would have to potentially pay kind of income tax and in different taxes and things like that on. At which case, that could be like $80,000, which would be pretty bad. But there's all kinds of ways to work that out if that's how it shakes out. It really, as far as I understand, it really depends on how Tesla accounts for it. If they take it as a deduction, as in like a discount that they gave or something that reduces their kind of tax liability, then I have to report it as well. Because there's a big difference from what I understand talking to my accountant. Like if you go into the Apple store and say, hey, I want this iPhone for 50% off, and they're like, cool, here you go, 50% off. That's very different than me having a referral program working for months to get this discount. So I've earned this thing versus just asking for it. So I think that there's a lot of nuance here. And I have friends that actually are our CFO consultants. And we've actually all sat around drinking beers, and there's none of us have a solid answer. A lot of it depends on how Tesla handles it.
Really interesting. I look forward to that moment. When are they gonna? Do you know what the timeline is for that? I mean, I guess they have to start producing the car. So next year, right? 2019.
I think 2020 is when they said they're going to start making it. The question is where. I suppose with only 1,000 that they're going to make, they could, I don't know, do it by hand or fit it into some pilot system somewhere. It doesn't have to be like a line at Fremont, right? Because they're not going to be making hundreds of thousands of these things. So yeah, I'm not sure. I'm guessing that we'll hear probably this year, if not soon, an announcement about one or multiple new car factories, because they have to.
Yeah.
Fremont is, as Elon stated, bursting at the seams, and that was like a year ago. So yeah, Model Y, semi-truck, Roadster, all these things happening, they have to happen somewhere else, or Fremont needs to double in size somehow. So
All right. One last question here, and we'll go ahead and wrap up. You're now an owner of a Model 3. How's that ownership going?
I'm liking it more and more. The more time I spend with it, the more time I like, the more things I like about it. I still think I prefer the Model S. It's just a better car. It's more comfortable to me. I'm also biased because I had it for 2 years before getting a Model 3. I have other friends that have driven my car that have like BMWs and stuff, and they're just floored by it. But I think it's a fantastic vehicle. There are a few things that are kind of easily solvable. One, I did that video on where I put my phone behind the steering wheel. Like yesterday, I was up in LA and filming and everything. Getting back, like LA is the perfect example of why this is useful, because Waze, which does the traffic alerts and everything like that, is phenomenally better in a city like LA, which has freeways everywhere. So you can truly navigate, if you know all the information and have it. The Tesla navigation doesn't do any of that, right? It just says, okay, kind of here's the way. Like maybe it'll route around traffic, but it has no clue of like, well, this road has a HOV lane and this one doesn't, so take this one, right? So like things like that. Like there's a little things that I think will be nice that are very easily solvable, like that. Like the wood grain thing, I don't love. I want to get like carbon fiber over that and those kind of things. Like there's just little things that I think will make it even better. But overall, I think it's a fantastic vehicle, and I can't wait as more and more people get theirs, because I think the Tesla community is going to grow, the EV community is going to grow. It's really going to be a big catalyst, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I've had a chance to spend some time with it, and I think it's a very impressive car. It's not, if you're expecting a Model S or Model X, it's a little bit disappointing. But as long as you have that expectation that this is not a premium car, this is a step below that. I mean, I think it's a phenomenal car. And the software the software and the design, I think, are my two favorite things. I love the simplicity and I love the exterior design of the Model 3. I think they knocked it out of the park with design.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're still. It's funny. People are confused by this, but I think we're still in such early days with technology in general that this car, especially because of how everything is mostly software driven, like this car 2 years from now is going to be wildly different than what it is now, and it's going to be phenomenal because of Tesla understands that. The software is gonna really be the difference maker here. Simplistic design, definitely kind of low budget compared to a high end Model S or Model X. Those kind of things. But I think as things get more autonomous and as the things like voiceover gets better, all that kind of stuff is just going to make this car. It's going to really be a totally different vehicle in a couple of years' time.
Super exciting, and I really can't wait to see some of their, like the Model Y. The Model Y, I think, is going to be another one that's going to be an exceptionally great selling car for Tesla.
Yeah. I think like so now, because this is my business, like we'll as soon as Model Y reservations go, we'll put one in, right, and do all these kind of things. But we may actually keep the Model Y, like we're not sure what our final cars will be, right? But like the Model X, we thought about buying one because we had a loaner for a day and it was amazing. It's a whole other level beyond the Model S, and the Model S is amazing. So we were blown away by that. But the doors kill it for us because we have an old home. The doors can't even come close to opening in the garage. And that's fine. We live in San Diego. We can be outside, right? It's not a big deal. But at the same time, you have a $120,000 car. You want to put it in the garage sometimes, right? And so things like that are like the Model Y. If it were basically the Model X without the doors, with just regular doors, we would be all over it. So I think, I think a lot of people like probably want the Model X, but it's a little bit too eccentric maybe with some of the crazy advanced features that it has. And so I think the Model Y is going to be a bigger, maybe even bigger than the Model 3.
All right. So I did this with, I'm going to wrap things up with just like 2 or 3 rapid fire questions. Answer them quickly. First thing that comes to mind here, because this is one that I really had fun doing on my my old podcast. Favorite video you've ever done for your YouTube channel?
Oh man. Um, Jumping a Model 3 in Vegas with my friend Dan.
Jumping a Model 3?
Uh-huh.
Like jump starting it.
No, like catching air.
Oh, geez. Okay. Awesome. that there's a video on that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have
So
to go check it out.
it wasn't on my channel, it was on his channel. It's called What's Inside Family. It's his family vlog channel.
Awesome. I'm gonna go check it out. Best Tesla that Tesla has ever made. What it could be the battery version. It could be, what comes to mind? Favorite Tesla ever.
Well, I mean, if I can say the Roadster, I'll put the Roadster on there because it technically exists. I've ridden in it. But for a car that you could actually buy, I would have to go with the Model S P100D. I mean, it's just hard to beat that car, man.
Yeah. Favorite feature of your Tesla, either one, 3 or S.
That I can turn the AC on before I get in it.
Love it. Love it. Cool. Ben, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to jump on and give a little bit of background on your Tesla story. I want to give you a chance to kind of shout out your website or whatever you think is good. Also, are you doing the Tesla conference later this year? So pimp out the website and then anything else that you think would be valuable for these viewers to know.
Yeah, well, so as you know, you can find me on YouTube at Teslanomics. The website is teslanomics.co, where the reason to go to the website is because we post the actual interactive graphics when we have data and things like that. So there's a bit more there. And then, later this year, we're going to be doing TeslaCon again. So we're about ready to announce some of that stuff here in a few weeks. So stay tuned for that. And of course, if you find, if you're on the email list and any of those things, you'll get all this stuff just kind of direct in your inbox. You won't miss any of it.
All right. I think that's a wrap. Ben, thanks again for joining. And thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in to watch this interview, and see you on the next video.